All right, time is now 6 p.m. and I'll call to order our regularly scheduled McMinnville Fire District Board of Directors meeting at 6 p.m. on August 17th. First up, roll call.
We have Director Sparrow on Zoom, I believe. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, thank you. I don't see Treasurer Traff yet. Secretary Pratt,
Here.
Vice President Smith,
Here.
President Garber.
Here.
We are four. We have a quorum. We have four, and Treasurer Traff, I believe, will be joining us on Zoom, but he's not on currently.
All right, and that takes us to Pledge of Allegiance. Vice President Smith.
Sure. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That takes us to changes to the agendas. Any changes from board or staff to the agenda that's presented?
Mr. President, I see Treasurer Traff is online now.
All right, let the record show Treasurer Traff has joined us via Zoom. Thank you, Chief. Treasurer Traff, we're at the changes to the agenda part of the meeting. If you had any changes you wanted to propose to the agenda, now would be the time to do it. Hearing none. Takes us to consent agenda, which we have no items tonight, as well as financial report, no items yet, which brings us to public comment. This is part of the meeting. I'll call on members of the audience and then Zoom. You can raise your hand if you'd like to speak. Public comment will be held to 3 minutes each. And at this time, I'll open public comment. Is there anybody from the audience that would like to speak? Hearing none, is there anybody on Zoom that would like to speak? All right, I will now close the public comment period. And that brings us to our action items. So let's be the part of the meeting. We'll call to order a joint meeting between the district board of directors and local contract review board.
Move to a public hearing.
And then we'll move to a public hearing. So I'll call that public hearing to order. And if anybody would like to comment on Zoom, please raise your hand. Anybody in the audience, if you'd like to comment during the public hearing regarding the resolution amending public contracting rules for McMinnville Fire District. And hearing none, I'll take a briefing from Fire Chief on.
The public hearing was specifically for in accordance with the ORS 279B.085, 279C.335, where the district board is hearing any public comment on the findings and support of the resolution. Exhibit A, which is attached in your packet, basically lays out findings that were drafted and created for us by our local government law group, who is our attorneys group. These are exemptions from the Attorney General's procurement rules that are allowed by law, but they have to be adopted formally by the boards in order to use the less stringent procurement processes as outlined in the process. The public hearing basically is specifically for public input on the exemptions themselves. And then we'll ask that the board, if there are no comments on the exemptions themselves, we'll ask that the board move the resolution in the second, once you close the public hearing, to approve resolution and debate resolution with the board after that.
Okay. For the Director Sparrow and Treasurer Trapp, is there any questions you have in regarding Exhibit A that was prepared by LGLG for us?
No questions here.
What about you, Secretary Pratt? Anything that jumps out at you that you want to modify or?
No, everything seemed to make sense and easy to read.
Just to clarify, Keith, these are used by a number of different special districts. That's kind of the proven format by LGLG.
That's correct. The LGLG has provides its service, and this is a part of their service, where they annually evaluate the Attorney General's procurement policies that come out from the state government. If they are not in conflict with these exemptions that the rural district has amended, they will automatically update our procurement rules and send them out to us as part of that process. If we, as a board, as a district, ever decided to change the exemptions that we made, we would have to go through this process again to change our exemptions, but we do not have to go this process to change Attorney General's rule changes within the regular procurement process. Unless someone came along and specifically requested a public hearing for that process. But that would normally, that does not occur. And the exemptions that they provided us, or exemptions that have been recommended and the findings have been authorized and approved throughout the state with no conflict with the Attorney General's office.
Okay. Any questions or input, Mr. President?
No questions.
All right, that I'll call for one more. If anybody in the audience or on Zoom wants to provide any public comment before we close the public hearing.
Not yet. No,
Not yet.
oh, the public hearing. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Yeah, so Janet Redmond, I'll make one comment. The exemptions proposed seem reasonable and appropriate and, you know, make sense given the nature of this specific exemption.
Thank you. Anybody on Zoom? No? Raise your hands. All right, so with that, I'll close this portion of, or close the public hearing for this joint meeting. And that brings us to resolution 2023-07, which is a joint resolution of the district board and local contract review board opting out of the Attorney General's model public contracting rules and amending public contracting rules for McMinnville Fire District.
Resolution 2023-07, as allowed by ORS, does permit the district to opt out of the general rules, public contracting rules, within certain parameters, and the LGLG has identified those parameters for us. This resolution, you will be adopting the full Attorney General's rules with the modifications that were identified in the public hearing, which are posted at the rear of the procurement policy. So the resolution itself identifies the challenges and the issues and the amendments that were adopted through Appendix A. And also we are adopting the Exhibit B, which is the procurement contracting rule, which is about 100 pages of mostly model Attorney General rules with our last 7 pages of modifications to the purchasing procurement rules that have been allowed by law, and you will be adopting as part of our procurement public contracting rules for 2022-23.
All right, any questions for staff regarding resolution 2023-07?
Yes, under the memo, under the background section, second paragraph, the first sentence, should that read governing public contracting instead of govern?
I'm sorry, sir, what paragraph?
Second paragraph under background, where it says, so that in that first sentence, I just don't know if it should read governing instead of govern public contracting.
No, it should read govern because it's the Attorney General's model rules govern or dictate public contracting.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from the board? All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adopt resolution 2023-07 on behalf of the McMinnville Fire District and on behalf of the district's local contract review board.
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution 2023-07 on behalf of the McMinnville Fire District and on behalf of the district's local contract review board.
All right, we have a motion by Vice President Smith. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
And a second by Secretary Pratt. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay.
I didn't hear, Treasurer Trapp. I don't believe, I think I heard, is he on? Treasurer
Yes.
Trapp, are you on? Did you vote? I'm sorry, but I missed your vote.
Yes, I did give an eye.
Okay, thank you.
Sparrow beat you to the mic. So with that, we have, resolution 2023-07 passes unanimously 5-0. At this time, I'll now join our joint meeting of the district board and local contract review boards. And that brings us to item E, which is board policies 8-12 for the review and approval.
Director and board, as we've been working through the policies for the board, these are the next ones up. Next one's up. That's good English. Thank you. Policies 8-12. We moved policy 8 from last week's meeting to this week's meeting because it was in line with the rules on the meetings and the agenda and the structure of the meeting. So the meetings you have, or the policies you have before you tonight, are all around the public meetings rules for the board. And most of these by default are driven by ORS, but there are some minor modifications in there if you choose to make them. We can discuss it as we move forward.
All right, so with that, we'll just take policy number one at a time as we have been, and then if, at the end, we can vote to approve them. So policy 8, definitions for public meetings. Any questions, concerns? No questions, concerns.
No, everything is good.
Director Sparrow and Treasurer Trapp, anything regarding board policy 8 that concerns you?
No, I think it's pretty clear. We're basically just adopting those public meeting laws set forth by the ORS there.
All right. I'll take this to board policy 9. Which is public meetings. This lays out our meeting schedule, which is currently the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So when we do kind of catch up and get our feet underneath us, we'll need to amend this to show that. But I think for the foreseeable future, we'll continue the 3 meetings a month. Other than that, any comments from the board? All right, took us to policy number 10. This just sets out the agenda structure, and so if there was anything that we wanted to modify as far as how we're laying out our meetings, public comment period, things like that. This would be the time to do that. We can always come back and amend this as well. There's desire.
I like the structure, it's working well.
Okay. Sparrow and Pratt, looks like Pratt and Smith are okay with board policy 10. Is there anything you'd like to discuss?
Nothing here.
Nothing here.
All right, so board policy 11, policy regarding public participation in meetings. Any,
Let's go.
all right, we're good on board policy 11 here. What about on Zoom land?
Good here.
Good here.
All right. Takes us to board policy 12, which is media and executive session policy. We haven't had any executive sessions yet, but this is all pretty straightforward out of state law from my recollection from executive sessions, but if you guys have anything that you don't like in here, we can talk about it. It looks pretty straightforward to myself. Anything in the media and executive session policy that concerns you guys?
Nothing here.
Nothing here.
All right, well, with that takes us board policy 8 through 12. Hearing no amendments, I'd entertain a motion to adopt board policy numbers 8 through 12 as presented.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt board policies 8 through 12.
All right, motion by Secretary Pratt, second. Second by Vice President Smith. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously 5-0 for board policy 8 through 12. Now that brings us to item F on our agenda, which is consider the second reading of ordinance number 23-1, an ordinance prohibiting career and volunteers and other district employees and volunteers from serving as a district director. And I will refer you to your packet and have Chief Lightford with us on the second reading.
If, Mr. President, if we could get consensus to, when we read the ordinance, to read it by title only by the board, that would save us from reading the whole ordinance. But this ordinance is
We
passed.
can ask for ordinance to be read by title only.
Okay, all right.
Is everybody okay with this ordinance being read by title only?
Yes.
All right, Chief, you could.
Okay, so the motion to approve ordinance 23-1 in its second reading and establish an effective date and ordinance prohibiting career and volunteer firefighters and other district employees and volunteers from serving as a district director. This item was passed in its first reading with no amendments, and this is the second reading taking effect to comply with the board policy that the board passed, which required an ordinance to make it effective.
All right. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain that motion, and in your packet, there's under recommendation, it's in bold print. If you could just read that verbatim in your motion, that would be great.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 1 in its second reading, an ordinance prohibiting career and volunteer firefighters and other district employees and volunteers from serving as a district director.
You may have had the whole.
So motion to approve ordinance 23-1 is what we're looking for. You said number 1.
Oh, sorry.
Just gotta dot the i's and cross the t's for.
Absolutely. You said it's 23-1.
Yeah, yep.
All right, I make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-01 in its second reading, an ordinance prohibiting career and volunteer firefighters and other district employees and volunteers from serving as a district director.
All right, second,
Second.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Trapped.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously 5-0. That brings us to item G. Consider second reading of ordinance number 23-2 as amended. An ordinance allowing the McMinnville Fire District to adopt fees and rates for district provided services and allowing for future board amendments of rates by resolution. At this time, I'll ask if anybody has any concerns with this being read by title only. Hearing none, I'll refer you to your packet and have the chief brief us.
So this is a motion to approve ordinance 23-2 as amended in its second reading and establishing a date and ordinance to allow the McMinnville Fire District to adopt fees and rates for district provided services and allow for future board amendments of rates by resolution. And as you see, the ordinance in front of you has been modified to remove section G as requested with a one typo that we cleaned up in the line right above that. Those were all of the amendments that were requested by the board at that time. This does establish effective date of 30 days from adoption by the board. And this is a two-step process. This is adopting the schedule of fees, the items that you can bill for. Your next item on the agenda is actually adopting through a resolution the rates of fees for that schedule. So the dollar figures are not in the ordinance. The dollar figures and the adopted amounts will be in the resolution for the items that you will be billing for.
And the main reason for that is so we can do annual housekeeping with cost of living and things like that.
Without having to do ordinance amendment, correct?
So with that, any discussion around ordinance 23-2? And hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 23-2 as amended. Just read that bottom recommendation that's in bold.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 23-2 as amended in its second reading and establishing a date. An ordinance to allow the McMinnville Fire District to adopt fees and rates for district provided services and allowing for future board amendments of rates by resolution.
All right, motion by Vice President Smith and second by Director Sparrow. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed by saying nay? Motion, ordinance passes unanimously 5-0. All right, that brings us to item 8 on the agenda, which is resolution 2023-08, a resolution establishing rates for a fee schedule adopted by the McMinnville Fire District as authorized under ordinance number 23-02.
I'm gonna have to go on a call. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Dan.
Donna, can you note, Director Sparrow had to step offline?
At 6:23. So Director Sparrow did leave the meeting, he's on a call, but we still have a quorum with 4 directors present, 3 present to have a quorum. So, back to item 8, resolution 2023-08. Ask if anybody has any concerns with that being read by title only by the chief.
This one's a resolution. We don't have to worry about that.
Oh. I'll get it done.
That's all right. We're kind of back into the normal process now.
So with that, chief, if you could brief us on 2023-08, and then we'll open up for discussion on the fee schedule.
So ORS 478.410, item 4, allows the district to adopt the fee schedule, which you just did in ordinance 23-2. The second part of this process is adopting the rates that apply to those fee schedules. The rates that are posted here currently are very similar to the rates that were identified, that we use for the city charges and that our budget was built on for the upcoming fiscal year. The ambulance rates, many of the inspection rates are very similar. So there are some rates in here that have no numbers in them, because we don't have agreements or contracts in place with the city to deal with those items yet. But the other items do have the rates in there that are the image of or the same as what the city's charging. We are charging for the city. The item I'm talking about specifically are fire and life safety plan reviews. We don't have an agreement. We do some of that work for the city currently as a city entity. Transitioning away, we'll have to enter into some sort of agreement in order to, but that has not been determined and we haven't gotten to the point and if we don't want to make that part of the IGA for the transition, we want that separate. So I don't want to muddy waters with the transition of the IGA. So we just left that TBD. And down the road, we enter into an agreement, we can modify the resolution and put that rate in.
Okay. Sounds good. And for currently, does staff track time on that? So when we get to that point, we kind of have.
We
Something
could
out of the way.
start doing, we could start doing that.
Yeah,
We
that
haven't
would
been.
be helpful, just so we can have some good information to work from. Just for clarity on the illegal burn, if you for somebody that's got a small burn pile going and it's kind of ignorant that they're not technically legal, do they get filtered to that, or is it more for if there's an actual fire?
So we, if it eats up a lot of fire resources, is the intent behind it.
Yeah.
But if someone is repeatedly driving resources to,
Yeah.
even with small ones, then we would start trying to get their attention. We try and educate
Yeah.
as a primary one. A large part of our zone, our new district is within the Forest Service area. So if we're having a challenge with that kind of work, we'll always call Forestry ODF. They're happy to go out and get citations. For lack of so we have partners in particular, everything east of west of Highway 47 that falls into the ODF properties. Right down the middle of McMinnville and out into the rural areas so we have that resource also in our forest lands in particular. But not always is it in the forest lands. Sometimes it's on the farms and sometimes it's on, some of the other areas where we have to deal with stuff. So we had to have some opportunity to deal with those folks.
And the base rate for ALS
Yes.
transport.
Yep.
Does that a little bit of additional, does that cover cost or?
So with that, no, it gets us close to the costs of the ambulance. But we have non-allowed fees through Medicare and Medicaid that has not gone away and will not go away. So the non-allows on the Medicare and Medicaid, we bill $2,200. For the base rate in return, we get $480, depending on the call, $495, $480. Medicare and Medicaid fall within that same payment range. So that's it doesn't help cover those costs. The GEMT program on the backside does recoup a little bit recoups pretty good amount, but for the Medicaid calls, for the Medicare calls, we do not get reimbursement, no method of reimbursement for that loss. So when we fill out our cost per calls, the cost per calls are pretty close to what we're billing out. We're just not getting the full reimbursement.
For the I was more meaning, you have city limits on here and outside city limits,
So I need to modify that.
so that should be district limits.
Yep, sorry about that.
Okay, so it'll be the 95 square miles for the AS.
Correct. Anything outside the 95 miles, 95 square miles will be, it will say district limits.
Okay,
Modify that to change to district.
and then that, well, I don't know, it's like $280 or so. Is that additional 280? Does that make us whole when we're running outside of our district boundary? Like it, still figuring all the firemen and all that, but just
Right.
apples of just being outside the district. boundary.
Our return, and when we're running outside of city limits to any of the not the city of Lafayette, I'm not picking on anyone, I'm saying not the city of
Yeah.
Lafayette so much, but we go to Carlton, we go to Yamhill, we go to Amity. Our return on that with the 200, it actually is about what we're billing out more than we're getting in our normal return within the city.
Okay,
So that is recouping.
yeah, I just want to make sure it's equitable
Area.
for our
Yep.
district taxpayers is.
Yep.
And they weren't subsidizing the ASA.
Yeah.
For outside. Those were the only questions I really had on the fee structure. Is there any other?
Question, our chief, clarity. So we review this annually
We can, well,
or whenever.
well, I won't be here, but if I were going to be here in the next budget cycle, I would probably bring recommended changes to the fee structure so we could prepare for that within the budget,
Ahead of the budget.
ahead of the budget.
Right. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
So annual review at a minimum.
At a minimum, I mean, obviously, if something happens, we may have to modify because of something that happens at state that says we can't do this anymore, something like that. We might have to modify it like that. Historically, for the last 15 years, my update of these types of fees has been in conjunction with the budget process.
Makes sense.
yeah, so typically we'll see a fee schedule update as like a housekeeping item, April through May, effective incoming fiscal year.
Yeah. Right.
And then that fee schedule is informed by the budget that's being presented, that we're doing at the same time.
Yeah, we'll have a chance to review all the
Yeah,
fees that we had collected on the last year. Okay, that makes sense.
It'll show, and then we can actually show a report on what we're bringing in for what and decide is there value in the administrative processes or not. So,
Thank you.
and waiting time, is that like if you show up to a care home and you're waiting, or you show up to the ER and you're waiting on standby for an extended period of time, or?
it's similar to standby time. It was a charge that we put in. There are sometimes when we're called out where we have to stand around and wait.
Gotcha.
We're not taking any action. We're not doing anything. We're waiting for something to happen that we need to either get into or not get into. Sometimes, I'll give you an example. There are times when we go to
Like a football game or something?
no, that's standby. That's standby time. There are times when we'll go to a call where we're tied up, but we're not able to provide service for an extended period of time. Then if it does turn out to be a legitimate EMS call, we would charge a waiting time on that.
Oh, gotcha. Understood. Any other questions or discussion? Treasurer Trapp, do you have anything?
Nope, nothing right now. I think you've covered a lot of it.
All right, hearing none, I would off my page, but I'd entertain a to approve resolution 2308
With amendments.
with amendments and just read the bottom bold that's on your memo.
I can make a motion to approve resolution 2023-08 as amended. Resolution establishing rates for a fee schedule adopted by McMinnville Fire District as authorized under ordinance 23-12.
All right, we have a motion by Vice President Smith and a second.
Second,
A second by Treasurer Trask. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? Motion passes unanimously 4-0 with Director Smith absent.
You want me to put that on?
And now we have item I, which is an update on the fire chief process.
Well, I'm sorry, sidebarring here.
Oh, we're just moving on to item I for an update on the fire chief's hiring process by HR Director Hedges and Fire Chief Blakely, I think.
HR.
You have a document
All right, thank you, Janet.
and email it to you.
I'm gonna sneak out the back door and I'm gonna email.
I'll do it real quick
Okay, sorry.
before we go. I'm just sending this to Scott so he can pull it up.
Oh, on the screen,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, I was just gonna send it to draft, but that'll work too.
And So while Scott's getting that pulled up, this is the draft process for the chief recruitment. It does show the job posting there on August 18th, but we actually. Sorry. We actually got the job posted today. That is on the SDAO website. And I posted to a couple other places. I talked with SDAO today and they said they've already received several inquiries, so that's good news. It'll be posted through September 17th. And then the dates listed here and the process are all up for discussion. But the tentative plan is to hold panel interviews October 10th, or at least during that week.
Okay. As far as,
Treasure trap, can you see that?
I can see that. Thank you.
Okay.
any discussion or thoughts on the draft process that's outlined? No, it's a lot of dates to cross check right now, but figured I'd open it up for discussion while everybody's looking at their calendars. Treasurer Trap, do you know if you're on shift the 10th or 11th? 10th, 11th, or 12th?
I am on shift the 11th.
Okay. I don't know what Danny. Guessing at least one.
Scott, do you know what kind of schedules Dan has? He's got Dan's. Yeah, right there.
I've got their 48 schedule. He's on B shift, right? Yep. Okay. B shift is October 10th and 11th.
How's the 12th look for everybody?
And really, we don't have to land on an exact date for that right now, right?
We don't.
Okay. I think we can massage that with the other two directors and
Mhm.
see how it fits into their shift work. Try and minimize the amount of time they need to take off. Anything on your end?
No, I'm good.
And if we,
He's got so much stuff on his palette.
I know,
I can cancel my tea time.
gotta get those on the clubs, and
Cancel and reschedule.
get the fishing reels respun. All right, any other update on the fire chief process?
Sorry. I don't have anything else just besides to say it's updated or it's posted and we'll be actively reaching out via social media posts. Obviously, we'll share internally and then reaching out nationally to different listservs of people, advertising as much as we can. Did I forget anything?
I know they're just waiting for the next posting date for the Daily Dispatch, right?
Yes.
Has anybody looked at the SDO posting?
Haven't seen it.
So my question on there, question for the board is on required qualifications, number one, it says bachelor's degree in fire EMS, medical service, or EMS, public or business administration, or closely related field, and 10 years of fire and EMS experience. And how I read that is that we want to require a bachelor's degree of some sort. But from my recollection of our meeting, it was, we would take 10 years of experience and they don't have to have a bachelor's degree.
I'm sorry, I'm not looking at it. I believe our job description, I'm not sure if you included that in there, was or equivalent. Is that not on there?
So it says or closely related field and 10 years.
Yeah.
So the word and in there instead of or 10 years is kind of the wordsmithing I hung up on. I just want to make sure people know that 10 years works or a bachelor's degree works.
If Rich is pulling up the job description, because I know that's where he pulled it from, so I want to,
Okay.
yeah, he sent me the board approved job description today as well, so let me pull it up real quick. Try to find it. Sorry.
And I could be wrong. I just wanted to ask tonight with being fresh first, letting it run for a week or two.
Got it?
Oh, I'm getting there. Thought I had it.
Here we go.
Did you get it?
Yep. Opening real quick.
Just text it to you.
Oh, there it is.
So our job description says BA or BS degree in fire EMS, public or business administration or closely related field and 10 years of fire and EMS experience with at least 3 years in a position with full supervisory responsibilities.
Is that what we want? Do we want to require a bachelor's degree or do we want experience? One or the other?
So you can leave that as a minimum. Of course, people are welcome to apply even without, and then you can screen applications based on, whether you want to accept somebody with less than the minimum, like you can still come forward with that.
Would that be done at the SEO and HR reviews, or that's the task force reviews?
Yes, it'd be at the SEA or HR. However, the intent for that review is to simply remove applications that don't even come close to meeting the minimum qualifications. We're not going to be like, we're not counting months of service or anything like that. We're just going to be reviewing and make sure that they actually have fire service experience or come close to being able to meet those qualifications. So we wouldn't remove somebody like that from the pool that has 10 years.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Any other questions related to the SEO posting that's going to go live on Daily Dispatch next week? All right, with that, we'll move on from item I to item J, which is the appointment of task force members for the fire chief process. Members, would be on that third line item, task force scores applications that meet the minimums. As well as potentially doing some other additional legwork that the other 3 board members were. The main thing is that we only have 2 members on the task force, so we can be more flexible and not have to hold full board meetings to move through this chief process, which would substantially slow us down. But as far as the panel interviews, going through the top 6 applications through that panel interview process, and then we'll debrief as a board afterwards, and then we'll also have full board interviews of the top 2 to 3 applicants. The board is still going to make the hiring decision, so it's just getting us to who is the top echelon that we're using this task force for. And so with that, we had interest, reluctant interest. Secretary Pratt. High interest from Vice President Smith, and then I stepped down from the branding committee to kind of help spearhead this process. So with that, I would like to appoint Vice President Smith and myself to the task force for the fire chief process at this time. I'd entertain a motion for that, if anybody would like to make that motion.
I move that you guys, be the task force
Okay.
president.
Treasurer Trout, Secretary Pratt moved that Vice President Smith and President Garvin are appointed to the task force as task force members for the fire chiefs process to work with SDAO and human resources and staff on getting us the top 4 to 6 applicants for the panel interview process.
I second that.
All right, moved by Secretary Pratt and second by Treasurer Trav. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion passes 4-0. That takes us to other business. So we have board, committee and liaison reports. I'll now call on Treasurer Trapp if he has any updates on LoSAP at this time.
No updates on the LoSAP program.
What about branding? I know Director Sparrow was on there too, but he's gone right now.
Yes, so right now, talking with Director Sparrow, we're trying to just nail down a time that works for everyone to get the entire committee and all representatives together for a meeting. So I planned on talking to him after this meeting tonight, so I'll reach out to him and have more next meeting.
Awesome, thank you. Item B is board information reports. Anything from the board as far as information goes? Wycom didn't meet this month, but I know, you know, our due structure will be the top discussion over the next few months, so I'll brief you guys on that from my liaison position with the city council. I've at those meetings anyways, but I'm pretty sure it'll be rather straightforward off the data and the methodology that we moved to a couple years ago with Wycom. It's pretty cut and dry on what's fire and what's police. Outside of that, just remind everybody, if you want to register for any of those classes that are this month, and I think one of them might be next month, to let Rich or Donna know,
Actually,
or Scott.
if you're gonna go through SDAO, Scott or Donna would be the.
Okay, so Chief Law or Donna, if you want to register for any of those, and you gonna play that golf tournament?
I think we should. We have 4 of us.
Oh,
Do we need 4? Can we just do 2? If we do 4, we have to notice the meeting. If we do 2,
It was a 4-man team, 4-person team.
if you want to look into that, if they'll pair us up with another district that has.
I'll do that.
I'll jump in a car with you. Okay. As long as they got cards, I know. So that takes us to informational only items, department reports, and up first is local 3099. And we have President Godfrey in the room. Anything from the local? All right, thank you. With Volunteer Firefighter Association, I don't see anybody in the room, but any proxy?
just a reminder for the volunteers that September 6th will be Larry Giddings' retirement recognition ceremony here at 7 o'clock. There'll be cake. We'll be awarding him his axe, and the volunteers will be awarding him his. We're splitting up the normal meeting. Have an officer meeting at 6. Did I say 6? At 7 is the recognition ceremony. So at 7 o'clock, and then 8 o'clock will be our regular volunteer board meeting. We'll post it that there will be a quorum, but no business conducted, so you can come and say hello. Congratulate him on his 50 years of service for the department and district.
Awesome, thank you. And that brings us to item 3, which is the fire chief's report.
You see in your packet on the last page, and Treasurer Trapp, I apologize, I'll send this page to you. I did not know you were not going to be here this evening, or I would have forwarded you the revised packet. So I'll send it to you. It has a spreadsheet showing our calls since for the last 4 years, and then comparatively speaking, from July last to July this year, just as a starting point of what we'll start sending out to you at the beginning of every month, showing you the previous month's updates and what that looks like. That's just step one. We received one resignation from a firefighter EMT. I'm not exactly sure where he's going. I can't remember.
Aurora.
Thank you, Aurora. In August, Scott, 12th? We have 16, we have 12 applicants coming in the door for an EMT firefighter process. So we do not have any more on a list. So we'll be running a new hiring list. I'm sorry.
30th is the process.
30th, I'm sorry, thank you. On August 30th, we'll be running a process for EMT firefighters, of which we have a dozen that have minimum qualifications as well as some experience in the field. So that's a pretty good list for us as far as the EMT side of the house. We have one person who has a paramedic firefighter who has a conditional offer on the table. They've accepted it. We're just working through that process. And we have one more person coming into Oregon from Texas that will receive a conditional offer once they get here and get them started on their process for paramedic firefighter. Currently, we're carrying 4 vacancies of paramedic firefighters, and we have the one EMT who just submitted the resignation. So that's kind of where we're sitting as far as staffing goes.
Do the Texas certs, do they reciprocate or?
He actually was in Oregon before he went to Texas, so he's got his Oregon paramedic and fire certs, so it works well. The other item up there for the board of directors is the Oregon Fire District Directors Conference, or DDA conference in Astoria, Seaside, and the date, Scott?
November 2nd through the 4th.
November 2nd through 4th. We can email do they have an agenda out yet? Usually they're a little late on getting theirs out. Some of those training opportunities go to SDAO also and give us credit towards the discount on the insurances. And I'll forward out the dates and what the agenda is, and you can take a look. Get back to us early. We'll get the rooms booked for you so that we can get the rooms locked in, so we don't lose out on those rooms. And that's what I have in mind. And other than I will not be in town tomorrow. I'm heading up to Idaho for the weekend, so. But Chief Hannafin will be back tomorrow. She's flying back from Kansas City. She was back doing presentations at some conference. But she'll be back in pocket tomorrow.
Anything from Fire Chief Darby on the fire marshal side?
Nothing right now. Like Rich said, there's items that are still.
Whatever. Craft might appreciate it, so we can hear you.
Ty Darby, Fire Marshal. Nothing really to update right now. Things are moving right along. Just a comment on what Rich said with the TBD on the Fire and Life Safety Plan review. Those are things that we'll have to kind of discuss, like Rich said, after the IGA as we get settled. But we are currently offering Fire and Life Safety Plan review services to the city. It's something we've been doing for a decade or so. Is that fair? Yeah. So there's some statutorial things that we are obligated to do, and this is kind of a service that we're offering as a courtesy and as a good partner with the city. So, but there's more to come on that. That's why we landed on TBD. So
Awesome. Yeah, if you could just track your time on those, so
absolutely,
when we have that discussion of some data.
absolutely, we can do that for sure.
And anything from Training Chief Law?
We're openly recruiting and accepting applications for volunteers for our fall academy. Got that penciled in for the dates, October and November. A burn house already acquired for December. We received a couple applications the social media, but with a pretty good article put together by one of the Portland media stations on stuck at fire and the decline in volunteers and how important it is to volunteers. So we kind of push that out as part of that campaign. So far we're seeing a few people and some inquiries, people asking what it takes to be departments. So hoping to get a handful, half dozen or so for our fall cabin.
Visitor today. You had a visitor today? DPSST.
Oh, yeah, thank you. DPSST came and did our 2-year audit today. It was 28 minutes long. So thanks to Lori Martino for her excellent record keeping. Blew right through the audit. We're usually in hours. So, yeah, everything. We'll be getting our accreditation for 2 years. Here shortly.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions for chiefs? No? No? All right, that takes us to correspondence. My email inbox was empty regarding members of the public with correspondence. So anybody else get anything from the public? Any share, forward on? Informational items.
More in the next meeting. I have a typo on the agenda. The next meeting is actually scheduled for the 24th. But do you want to bring up the meeting on the 31st?
Oh, yeah. So our next meeting is not shown on the agenda. It's Thursday, August 24th at 6 p.m. here in Station 1. We are due to Chief's process and IGA and how the dates fall with there being a fifth Thursday. I just wanted people to kind of put a hold in for the 31st. Right now, we don't know if there's anything we need to discuss on there, but if you guys could keep that available. I'm actually going to be out of state, but I can zoom in that night, and everybody's welcome to Zoom. We'll still have a hybrid meeting like we normally do here in person and on Zoom.
Confirm that date again.
It'd be Thursday, August 31st. So we'll know when we hold our meeting next week, if we're gonna call for a special meeting, but
It'll be a regularly scheduled meeting because we have enough time to advertise it that way.
so by next week, we'll know if we're gonna meet on the 31st. And we're only gonna hold that meeting if we need to do something with the chief's process or we need to do something regarding the city IGA. Otherwise, we'll wait to our standard meeting date, which would be September 14th. But with there being, such a gap between the 24th and the 14th, wanted to make sure that we didn't hold up with trying to get this transition done by January 1. We might have to have an extra meeting or two in there. So just wanted you guys to have as much heads up as possible. So with that, our next meeting is Thursday, August 24th at 6 p.m. here at Station 1 and via Zoom. Meeting will be adjourned at 6:58 p.m.
Yeah.